Welcome back to the No Coach podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne Culberg, joined once again by the amazing Onnie Michalsky. I got it. Pronunciation is not my strong suit. Yesterday's episode, we talked about how to quiet your inner mean girl. And today we're continuing on that conversation. So if you haven't yet listened to that one, you can pause and go back, or you can listen to us first. You do you. But where Onnie was ending was such a powerful moment. Like, shooting all over yourself. And I guess that's tied to the mean girl thing, because I don't know, this is my interpretation, so feel free to disagree and let's end up where we end up. But for me, the example I gave in the last episode was I did something, I was disappointed, I didn't want to feel disappointed, so I end up being angry and on a whole tangent. But when I worked it back, it was like, if I had done it differently, like, you should have done it like this, then it would have turned out better. And all these things that we don't often know until afterwards. Like, it's funny how we should all over ourselves. Like, if you should have done it this way, or should have done it like that, or should have responded like this, you don't know to do that thing until you've had the reaction that you've had. So I'd love to unpack this more. Like, why do we do it? And we can end up spinning there for so long that then we're not making any further decisions, and then shooting all over ourselves because I shouldn't have spent all the time overthinking that thing.
Right. You're like just perpetuating the whole cycle of shooting.
100%.
It is. Yeah. So when you catch yourself in that should, you're absolutely right about not doing it in the moment. Like that, it's not until afterwards that you start feeling with like regret, or feeling like, you're lacking. Because, well, one of the things is like that underlying belief of not being enough, like that inadequacy. And a lot of these thoughts are being fueled by the beliefs we hold. And so if you have that belief, that not being enough, like feeling inadequate or believing that you're inadequate, that should distortion or, cognitive error is going to come up time and time again, because you're going to always feel like you're not measuring up, and you're not feeling like, so that's where that should comes from. But it's also complicated by being in the compare game, right?
Yes.
Like, you're comparing yourself either to like this ideal person, like perfectionism, right? Could come into play, where you're comparing yourself to, this ideal version of yourself, or to other people in similar roles, other people around you, right? Like that should is almost the statement of relativity, like I should be doing this, I shouldn't be doing that. And ultimately it just makes you feel worse about yourself.
Yes.
Like, so, switching that should to maybe saying, I could be doing that. Like, again, bringing it back to that acknowledgement, I could be making my family a huge 7-course meal, or whatever it is. That just came. Like, I've never said that to myself. I know that I'm never going to be making a 7-course meal, but like, whatever it is that you're holding yourself, to.
I love that. So what example came to mind for me? And I'm curious your take on this. So before I healed my relationship with food, that was my biggest one. Like, I shouldn't have eaten that. Like, and then from there, I shouldn't have eaten that, the guilt, the shame, and then, I've blown it anyway. Might as well make the most of it, because I'm going to start tomorrow, the universal day to change my life. And then I'd end up in such a spiral that it was kind of like, for every diet, there was an equal and opposite binge. And I lived like that for nearly 30 years.
Yeah.
And very recently, I went out with my husband. The kids were at their sports, and we went to a cafe, and I ordered a milkshake. And I don't normally have, anything like that. And it was too much dairy. And in the moment, like, I had it, and I shouldn't have had that because my belly didn't feel well and whatever. But instead of starting that guilt, shame spiral, that click and play that went on for like 30 years, now I was just like, yeah, this is why I don't have milkshakes anymore. And then it was like, move on. And then we went back to the cafe when the kids were at their sport thing the following week. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to get a nice tea. Like, but before it would have started this thing. But where I notice it is, like, my pure frustration is, if I've overcome this in one area of my life, it should magically rinse and repeat into every area. Right. But now I find that with my business, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have written that email, or I shouldn't have, that pattern still plays out elsewhere in my life. It's not fix,
Yes.
which is the
Yes.
frustration. So I'm wondering, for people, I suppose it's an easier skill to apply because you've got it in one area, you spot it, you got it.
You're already
But
aware.
yes, but I think sometimes we're not
It's
even
interesting.
aware.
Yeah. That's interesting that you said that, because I think back earlier today, I had my counseling session, like where I am the therapist, or I am the client, right? I go to therapy. I'm a huge believer in therapy, so I do therapy as well. And I was bawling my eyes out to my therapist, saying I should be further along, right? Like, so just
That
because I teach
one.
this, just because,
Oh,
yes, I should be further along. And so just, I didn't even think that until now, like, because that's the thing, like, yeah, I'm sharing this and I've definitely come a long way from, the way that I used to talk to myself, have shifted, have become more aware, have been able to, make that transition. But it's not that she completely like goes away, because there's always going to be new experiences, there's going to be new challenges, and those same, like, I won't even say insecurities, but those same like self-doubts come up, because they
yes.
keep us safe. They keep us safe and they keep us comfortable. I just want to say that, like, we are designed to be wary, to have this like negativity bias, where so we're constantly like almost fighting against this, like, to quiet that inner voice, because it's kept us safe, it's kept us alive. Like, yeah, it keeps us playing small, but it also keeps us comfortable, and nothing grows in our comfort zone. So you've got to learn to quiet that inner voice in order to surpass it, in order to surpass
Yes.
like that.
Um, Sorry, I'm just writing it down because it's giving me a thought. But the other thing that came up is, so you said I should be further along. That one, I have that one a lot. Also, I should know better, or I should have known better.
Yeah.
And I invite listeners, like, if you're watching on YouTube, pop it in the comments. But I'd love to know, or you can send me an email, info@suzanneculberg.com. What are yours? As in, I should be further along, I should have known better. And because that really takes us out of the moment. Like, if there's a skill that you're trying to learn, and I was just chatting about this morning, but like, my son has just learned to tie his shoe. It was a process. Like, it was a real
Mhm.
process. Tie the thing, pull it, make the bunny's ears, do the loop.
A hard skill.
It won't be long. Like, I imagine almost everyone listening to this, you tie your shoes without even thinking about it.
Mhm.
But then there's something else that you want to do. So
Yeah.
when we're like striving and lifelong learners, sometimes I believe the downside of that is we don't pause for applause for all that we've already done, because we've mastered that. And it's like, next,
Yes.
next.
Which that is another strategy, that giving ourselves credit for the things that we've done. I've done this list about 2 or 3 years ago. I wrote the hard things I can do. I actually read Untamed by
Oh,
Glennon
Glennon
Doyle,
Doyle.
right? And she talks about like we can do hard things. And I got the idea from her, and it was, I just took about 20 things that like I've done in my life that I have conquered, or like I've overcome, or like, yeah, I think you actually asked it in your question, like, what would your past self be in awe of? Right.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the things that are on my list. So now I give that to my clients. It's quite often a homework assignment, because I think just seeing that can give ourselves that confidence. It can like talk back to that inner voice and say, you know what, I've done hard things. Things are figure outable. I have that confidence that I can figure out whatever life throws at me. And just kind of switching the way you're talking to yourself and giving yourself that confidence, just like you would a friend, right? But giving yourself
Yes.
credit, giving yourself a moment to like bask in the glory and give yourself a pat on the back and say, you know what, I can do that. Like, and taking your power back. That's the other thing.
Yes.
Shoulding just gives your power away. Like, oh, I should have did that. Like, makes you feel guilty and shameful and all of these things. Whereas you're like, you know what? I could have done that, but I chose not to. I could have
Yes.
done that,
Or
but
next time, like when I'm in a similar situation,
I won't
you
order
know,
the milkshake.
I won't order the milkshake. This is why. Like, whenever I do something that I catch myself in the should, I was like, and this is why we don't do this. And it's just kind of that reminder. It reminds me of Jurassic Park, of all movies, where the velociraptors are constantly testing the fence. So it's kind of like,
Yes.
it's like, oh, can we have milkshake? No, we do not have milkshakes. But
Yeah.
there's not blame, shame, guilt spiral. It's just like, yeah, this is why we don't do this. They're going to get
Yeah.
zapped. So I
Yeah.
love that, and love, what would past you be in awe of, because I think sometimes we at least for me, we don't allow ourselves to fully celebrate the thing because it wasn't perfect. Like,
Right. Yeah.
Business, I know you and I are both in business. A lot of my listeners are in business. Say you launch something and you hope that 50 people will sign up and maybe you get 5. Instead of
Right.
celebrating the fact that you've put yourself out there, you've created something, you've written an email sequence, you've worked out how to link the thing to the thing so the emails get sent. Like a lot of stuff goes
And
into
these 5
launching.
people are eager to learn from you. Like instead of
Yes.
celebrating that,
It's
like
kind of
you're so
like you're
focused
at
on
a
that 40.
party and you're having a party in your house and you're standing at the window with your head stuck against the window going, is anyone else coming? And ignoring the guests that are in your house.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So yeah, giving yourself that moment to like just enjoy what is, and practicing gratefulness.
Yes, or
What's going good
appreciation.
in your
I'm
life.
allergic
Yeah,
to
appreciation.
gratefulness.
Yes, appreciation.
But you were saying on that previous episode, words matter. So if there is a word that for you is a little squidgy, or as I said, you feel a bit allergic to, like gratitude to me has a lot of heaviness because I can just be, I feel like I'm 6 years old. You should be grateful. That's what I hear. But appreciation, it's the same practice. It's the same underlying thing. So if there's ever a hiccup or a moment, it's like, I can't do this because this one word is whatever, switch it out.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
Anything else you want to say about shoulding before we wrap up, Onnie?
Yeah, just being more aware. Being more aware when you're saying it, switch it up like you just said. Just taking yourself off autopilot and start reflecting on like, what are you saying to yourself? Are you shoulding yourself? Are you comparing? Are you trying to hold yourself against some unrealistic ideal? And just being more aware of what you're saying to yourself.
And one last thing I'll add before we wrap up, depending on the context of the thing. So my whole disappointment thing was something that I delivered that I didn't think was particularly good. And I think, we are our own worst critic and our hardest judge. So if it's something like, for years, I could never listen to myself back. I just couldn't because I picked it apart.
I still can't. I still can't.
No, I can now. It's to the point. And often I listen back and I'm like, who dat? Like, that was really good.
I've done that with writing things. I've written
or if you've written something and it comes up on Facebook memories and you're like, oh wow, this is really good. Oh, I wrote it. But like taking the moment, because when the thing is happening, like when I'm delivering something and I'm like, I'm rambling or I'm talking too fast or my examples don't make sense or whatever, because I'm in it. But when I listen to it back, it's not too fast or the pauses aren't too long. What feels like an hour in your head is a good pause on a replay. So sometimes it's just that moment to take that step back from it. And then after I've celebrated, like, who that's pretty good, there are often things that in future I may do differently, but not, oh, you should have done this. It's like, but you don't learn from, like, I'm thinking of sports teams and stuff who record the matches and then watch the plays back. That is how they learn. They watch it. Not judgment and shame and guilt and should have, but, oh, we had this line open or this place wasn't covered, so we're going to reposition the team. So when you listen back to something, you're like, oh, I can see where this was unclear. I will spend more time on this part next time. And that's how you get, your best gets to get better, but you've always done your best.
Right. Kind of in that last episode when we talked about quiet your inner mean girl, like, taking that time to reflect on your thoughts, it's not to place more blame on yourself or more, guilt. It's actually to help you learn and move forward, because your thoughts are based on the beliefs that you hold. And so they're going to continue to come up until you start challenging them, until you start shifting those underlying beliefs. But you can't do that if you're living on autopilot. And so making sure that you're taking that time to actually get in there and learn from what happened rather than just feel guilty or shame or discouraged or hopeless. Like, we want to shift that.
And what came to mind when you said get in there is, like, I'm just thinking, like, with a vacuum, like, you suck it up, but vacuuming is not a once and done. There's still dust under the couch next week. Unfortunately, or depending if your kids have eaten crackers, they could be at the very next day or like 5 minutes later. So sometimes, like, I've done that already. I should have known better or whatever. I already know this. It's like, we're just vacuuming. We're just sucking it back up. And the more you do it, the less work it is. Whereas if you leave it for a long time between cleans, we got a bit of maintenance to happen.
Yes.
So, Onnie, what do you do and where can people find you?
So I'm a therapist and a life and wellness coach, and Moms Without Capes is my business. You can find me. I've got a podcast, Moms Without Capes podcast. Also a Facebook group of the same name. So if you're on social media, you're on Facebook, come join my community. We've got lots of different things happening all the time there. It's a super fun group. So come be part of my community. And you can find any information momswithoutcapes.com.
Yep, and just as a clarification for everybody in Australia, at least, the mums, MOM.
Yes.
But if you can ever not find anything from any of the guests, please just go to my contact page, send me through a message. I will find it for you. But I do trust everyone's power of the Google. And usually when you see a video, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the spelling next to Onnie's name, or if you're looking at the video description, it will be there. But thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're most welcome. Bye for now.